Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I'm here to do a discussion of the book The Happiness Advantage by Shawn Achor. This is a book that originally I read something like 7 years ago, and I found it really impactful at that time. Recently I was just feeling like it was time to reread it, and I did, and it was just as good as the first time. This is a very, very good book that is sort of a self-help book that looks at positive psychology. I will link down below a TED Talk that Shawn Achor did on this, which is what introduced me to the idea and prompted me to get the book years ago. I highly recommend checking out that TED Talk. It is so funny and so good. Shawn Achor is hilarious, both in his speech giving as well as in his writing. So this book is such a joy to read. The main idea of the book is focusing on positive psychology. So traditionally, psychology has looked at sort of what's wrong with people and how to help them get over those bad things and bring them up to kind of a normal state of being. But positive psychology says, let's look at the outliers who are extremely happy. They're doing really, really well in life, and let's see what lessons we can learn from that so that we can bring the average up. And the key takeaway from this book is the idea that a lot of what we're doing conceptualizes the process of becoming happy in sort of the wrong direction. So a lot of the times we think, okay, if I work really hard, then I will become successful. And success is what will lead to happiness. But Achor makes the claim that this is a totally backwards way of thinking. And actually, it's when we're happy that we become successful, and that our happiness is not dependent on our success at all. And in fact, if you try to make your happiness dependent on success, you'll never become happy, because with success, the goalposts are always moving. So if you say, oh, I'll be happy once I get that promotion, well, once you get that promotion, then you start looking at the next promotion, et cetera, et cetera. So your goalpost is always moving. So if you try to wait for success in order to be happy, it's never going to happen. On the other hand, if you focus on changing the lens that you look at the world through such that you find your own happiness, regardless of what is going on, whatever your circumstances are, then you can be so much more successful, because you become more creative, more resilient, more willing to try new things. You just are in a much better mental space. So he lays out so many things in this book that really go into all of the research into psychology. He presents so many different research studies that have been done that look at the way we find happiness and presents them in a really, really accessible way, supports them with a lot of anecdotes, both sort of the personal sort of anecdotes as well as a lot of businesses that he has worked with. So he has been a consultant to lots of big businesses, and presents a lot of ideas for how on an individual level as well as on a company level, we can change the way we operate to focus on happiness based on these research principles. And throughout it all, it's so funny. He has such a brilliant writing style. It's so easy to get through. This is not a long book. The TED Talk is a great intro, but really I highly recommend reading the book, because it presents not just the reasons why we should be looking at creating our own happiness, but also lots of very actionable items. So each chapter he talks about a different principle within positive psychology and what actions we can take in order to realize that kind of happiness advantage. So I read this 7 years ago for the first time, and for the past 7 years, I have been implementing a lot of the principles in this book, and they've been great. I mean, a lot of it's just very simple things, very simple ways of adjusting how you look at the world or how you approach things, but it makes a big difference over the long term. And I felt definitely like I've made a lot of progress in de-stressing. I think that I have traditionally had a lot of issues with becoming overly stressed and overwhelmed with all the things that are out of my control. And a lot of this book really focuses on focusing on what you can do and on the positive. So some of the things, for example, that I have implemented that I found really helpful in this book is journaling. I have started, I guess 7 years ago, I started journaling, and I don't necessarily do it every single night, but I do it many nights a week. And it's a good way to reflect back on the day and to reflect on my gratitude and successes. So one of the other things he recommends is 3 gratitudes. So just focusing on 3 things that you're thankful for each day in a way to train your brain to kind of seek out the things that you're grateful for each day. And they don't have to be big. It can just be stuff like, I'm grateful that it's snowing because it's kind of beautiful, that sort of thing. So I've done those things. He also talks about just in general the way you look for positive versus look for negative. He talks about the Tetris effect, which is this idea of, if you play Tetris for a long time, then your brain starts to want to shift things around and reorganize things in real life as well, because your brain's gotten into that pattern of problem solving. And so if you're constantly looking for things that are wrong in life, that's what you're going to find. That's kind of your view. But if you're constantly looking for things that are right in life, then you start noticing those more. And so that's been really helpful for me. Also, he talks about things like limiting what you're trying to fix to things that are within your control rather than trying to do everything at once and becoming overwhelmed. Also, some other things that he mentions are very importantly, valuing your social network and how important it is to have that kind of support network of friends and family. And I think in the past decade or so, I've really worked hard at connecting more with the people who are important in my life and maintaining those friendships and relationships and reaching out and things like that, because I maybe tend to be a little bit hermit-like if left to my own devices. But those have all been really, really helpful things that have made a positive impact in my life. But there's still a long way to go for me. Other things that I want to do, he talks about the importance of meditating. He talks about the importance of, I guess, falling up is what he calls it. So falling up is when you encounter difficult things in your life, so failures or struggles, that those can be opportunities for trying something new, which can lead to new levels of success. And I think that I still struggle to frame things that way. I still struggle when I am finding that things aren't working out how I want them to see that as an opportunity to try something new and find new successes. I still get a little frustrated with that. So definitely this reread was helpful for reminding me of some of those ideas and also refreshing my memory and my understanding of many of the other things that I had started doing, 7 years ago, but want to continue improving on. So I think that this book is just such a great resource. I highly recommend it to basically everybody. I think so often we think, oh, I'm an adult, I can just, get by in life. But really, we don't always have the best coping mechanisms and tools to lead a happy adult life. And we just think, oh, that the stress and difficulty is kind of a normal thing in life, but it doesn't have to be. A lot of it really is just internal. So this is a good book to kind of get you on that path of looking positively at life and trying to, kind of make lemonade out of the lemons, right? So I recommend this book. If anybody else has read it, please leave me a comment and tell me what you thought below, or if you've read any other good books that talk about positive psychology and building kind of a positive outlook and positive habits, I'd love to hear about it.